2, tangible, hands-on tech habits. Come on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Sloan, and just a second while I get this thing to stop moving. I'm Chris Sloan. I'm the technology librarian at the Joliet Public Library. About a year ago, I started working there, and I wasn't really familiar with the area, and I wanted to meet some other people in the field, especially in the community, and I got an email from the ISL and found out about this program. So talked to my boss, made sure it was cool, and then I put together a little presentation, sort of a proposal, and poked around the various institutions around Joliet, and I was lucky enough to end up with these 4. So people, librarians, ladies. I'm blind to gender, so I can't. But anyway, it's been a great experience, as has interacting with all of you. But we're all from the community of Joliet. We're all from different types of libraries. I'm from the public, obviously. Bridget and Shannon are both from University of St. Francis, so academic library, and Gwen is from the high school. So we had gotten together and just talked about the different types of roadblocks that we encountered, and within teaching tech literacy, within libraries, within the library environment, just the kinds of things that we felt sort of prevented us from being as effective as we could, and decided that more often than not that it was sort of within our control. It's not like whether the kids are paying attention or not, or whether the people aren't coming in or whatever. So it's this sort of puts the responsibility on us, and it really gives us we developed a method that we'll tell you a little bit more about. But first I'll introduce Bridget Bell, and she will sort of describe our thought process a little bit more.
Hi, guys. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, great, because I can't really tell. So when we first started working together, we sat down, had our first meeting, and tried to think of what we could focus our project on, something that we all deal with in our respective libraries. And in some ways, this was an easy task for us because one way that we are unique compared to some of the other groups here is that we are all from the same community, similar to the CPL5. So we're all from the community of Joliet, Illinois. For those of you who aren't familiar with Joliet, although it's relatively suburban in terms of location, it's actually considered a smaller city in the Chicagoland area. So along with Aurora, Aurora and Joliet would be considered 2 smaller cities in northern Illinois. So it's a relatively urban community, and it's a very diverse community, and there's a very wide poverty gap, a very wide education gap. So in terms of the types of issues that libraries deal with, in terms of technology skills, there's definitely a really big discrepancy within this community. So that was one thing we identified right away. One other way that we are unique, however, as Chris mentioned earlier, is that we within our group have a strong showing from all 3 different kinds of libraries. We have academic librarians, we have a public librarian, and we have a school librarian. So although we were able to identify some common issues facing our community, the way that those issues manifest was different within each of our libraries. So we had to do a little bit of discussion to figure out what exactly we wanted to focus on. But basically what we decided as a group was that we all were sort of intimidated by the fact that we are expected to teach patrons within our libraries, but none of us are trained as teachers, which I think is something that a lot of librarians face. Well, except Gwen, because Gwen works in a school. But even so, I mean, you're a librarian, not a teacher. So we... You are. Teacher librarian, sorry. I don't know these things. I'm not a school librarian. I hope I didn't offend anybody. I sincerely didn't mean to. Anyway, So we talked about coming up with a teaching method to help those of us who aren't classically trained as teachers, to help us impart technology skills onto our patrons. And so we came up with this teaching method that we'll be talking about in more detail a little bit later, the primary focus of which is a focus on hands-on teaching of technology skills. So with that, I'll pass it on to Gwen, the teacher librarian. The teacher librarian. Or Shannon, sorry.
Okay, so basically the deal is that these are some of the problems that we found through that. But basically, one of the things, like they said, we are 3 very different communities in that trying to find a couple of different problems to go through. So I'll just quick read them. Always ask the same question over and over. That's one of the things that we get, especially with technology. Again, like Bridget mentioned, there is a digital divide. We have a lot of different questions about how do I do this in Word? How do I do this in on a website, how does, the scanner work, that kind of thing. Also, what software program do I use? Also, lack of hands-on experience. Again, that digital divide. Some of the kids, come to either our schools or our libraries with computers. Some of them don't. So there's that. Also, lack of time to work at own pace. This was a big one for us. One of the things that we found is that we wanted to make sure that we created something that would be flexible for any type of teaching environment, whether it was a group, whether it was individually, basically trying to make sure that everybody got what they needed from what they needed to know. And this was actually a method for us to check ourselves to make sure not only were we being consistent throughout the different audiences that we were taking care of, but also we made sure that we got it done. Was basically our thing. So that's about it.
So, the actual Thoth method was an 8-step system that we came up with that anybody could use because, like Bridget and Chris said earlier, most librarians they really are not teachers, okay? And so if in the public library world, they don't have the teaching experience, so they don't really know how to maybe go through a process. And what we created was not anything revolutionary. It wasn't anything totally new, but what we wanted to do was just make something simple so somebody who doesn't feel comfortable teaching or isn't familiar with how to teach could easily do it. And at our poster session, we went over all these sessions, so we feel like we don't want to belabor all the different points, but basically you need to find out what does the user want to do. The librarian's going to help you find what tool you need. The librarian's going to show you how to access that tool. First, you're going to demonstrate it. Then you're going to let the user practice it and do it. Then the user's going to be asking questions. The librarian's going to be addressing that. At the end, the user's going to evaluate how they feel they did, and they're going to then do it at least another time by themselves until they're comfortable. And I think this was the part that we kept tweaking was, as a librarian, working with somebody, a lot of times it's like, okay, here's the resource, here's where you need to go, type in some stuff, and if you need anything, let me know. Well, we kind of need to stay there and work with them to make sure that they're using the tool properly and are comfortable with it, because we don't want them to keep coming back to us with the same questions. We want them to become independent users is our ultimate goal. So that was the little to do there. And then the next slide is a video of demonstrating, all 4 of us in our different settings, how we utilize this technique. Okay?
This is serious action that Mrs. Thompson's talking about. And I know we're all different learning styles, whether we're visual, what's the other ones? Give me another one? And kinesthetic. All right? So we all have to focus, and she's going to show us. Auditory kids, Frank, keep it closed. Okay? Because otherwise the other auditories are listening to you, which is delightful, but not. All right, Mrs. Thompson, let her rip.
Okay, so the skill that we're going to do today is kind of difficult,
When you did Noodle Tools in the past, what you've done is you did the copy and paste thing. So you went on the database and you found the citation and you copied and pasted it into Noodle Tools, right? You should be sort of familiar with that because you've done it a few times. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at photographs. A lot of your projects this year and next year especially, you're going to use a lot of PowerPoints and maybe Prezzies, or you might even make movies. And I made them sit and watch first, that made a difference in them actually paying attention. So what I thought they were paying attention, they really weren't. So that step of where you actually have to do the demo and have the student or patron watch, I think is almost the essential part. Because then once they go to do it on their own, they really have a little bit more confidence and understanding of the process. And then they only need a little bit of guidance to get through that first example. And then when they do their second example, they pretty much have it, which is the ultimate goal. You want them to feel independent and able to do these things on their own.
And then from there you can click on that A to Z list of databases down at the bottom.
They responded really well to it. I think it helps at first for them to go through it with someone, like a librarian, to help them along the steps. And then they feel more comfortable doing it on their own once they've been shown by someone else. So it's sort of like getting their feet wet, getting them comfortable so that eventually they feel comfortable doing it on their own.
Yeah, that one right there. And then you can find the database you want in the list. So go ahead and look for Academic Search Premier right there. So when you're doing a keyword search in a database, you want to like brainstorm some keywords that have to do with your topic. And then you can type those keywords into the search bar up at the top. So what's your paper topic?
I really do think that the method has helped me to teach my students how to use technology, especially because of the hands-on component. I think that's really important that they learn how to do it on their own independently. And I think that that's the most important part. So I'm really happy with how everything turned out.
So do you want to try again from the beginning and do a new search?
Yes.
Do it on your own?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's really the same thing if you want to share your screen with them and let them follow it. But you could do it. It wouldn't hurt. All right, so this is yours to keep and that kind of stuff. We're going to move this just a little bit so we can follow along together. Okay, so basically we're going to go through these steps real quick.
Okay.
So the first one is you can use, are you on Chrome or Mozilla?
I'm on Chrome.
Okay, Mozilla tends to work out better than Chrome does, so that might be a better thing to switch over to. So the great thing about the Thoth method is that it's an easy way to teach any group. So for instance, I used it for staff. The great thing about it is it's a step-by-step process of teaching somebody how to do something, whether it's dealing with technology or any other thing. And I think a lot of librarians could benefit from using that kind of method and then go from, teaching in a very, loose and formal manner to teaching in a more formal manner and that kind of stuff. So like over here, what you can do is, if they're just a participant, that means you can only show them what's going on. But then if you right-click on them and say make them a presenter, that then allows them to also share their screen with you. And then it should come back much bigger, and it should probably say, is this okay? Do keep changes. Okay.
Then exit.
Okay, so now it's much bigger, which is good. So we've been through all this.
All right, so the first thing we're going to want to do is just open up Photoshop CS5. We have CS6 on some of the other computers, but other people are using them right now, so we can't access it. All right, the first thing that we're going to do is create a new document from scratch. So I'm just going to call this Jesse example. And there's a couple things that you have to keep in mind when you're setting up a new Photoshop document. The first is what you're going to be using it for, like what the end product's going to be. So this one we're going to...
So I think the thing that I like the most about it is that I don't have to like second guess myself. I don't have to wonder if... I'm not explaining something right, or if people have any questions, because that's sort of dealt with along the way.
Transparency somehow, and that's how they display it. I am going to close this for the time being and get you just to
make start your own blank document if you could. So I can coach you through it.
Okay.
It's sort of like foolproof teaching, I guess, just to make me sure that I'm doing my job correctly. And like we've been saying all along, it's not like we're doing anything that's like earth-shattering. We just feel that these steps in the process get ignored too often, and us creating this method is a way to ensure that they are paid attention to, because we all feel that those steps are crucial in people really gaining a true understanding of the subject matter. So I feel great about the whole thing.
So that's just sort of us in our different environments. It's really more of less of a one-time thing, obviously, and like something that will be ongoing in terms of just the way that each of us operate and think about interacting with the public or students or whoever we're teaching for the moment. With the funds that we got from the program, we bought a variety of different things. I bought a better camera than the library had, which I used to shoot that, but I also am shooting video tutorials with to sort of walk people through the process of things, and I'm incorporating the method into those videos. Like now you try this and that. But yeah, I'll let everyone else describe what we've got a bunch of different stuff.
So for my school, I bought Wacom Intuos, the pen tablet. So I wanted to get a technology that would be new for our kids, that they wouldn't be able to afford, and it would be something that would also go with some of the classes that they take, since a lot of our curriculum now is incorporating videos and all this creative stuff. They needed something if they wanted to draw and start to create their own creations, and then it's a new tool that we can help them learn how to use. So that's what
And then since Shannon and I are from the same institution, we're both from University of St. Francis, we pooled our portions of the money together, and we bought a subscription to lynda.com. I'm sure at least some of you have probably heard of Lynda. Yeah, Katie. So Lynda's pretty great if you don't know anything about it. It's an online product that gives you access to software tutorials and tutorials about how to use different technologies, which for us as academic librarians is huge. So Shannon will be able to use Lynda for her reference staff and helping them to learn new technologies. I can use it to help patrons learn how to use new technologies. And I think with the subscription we have 6 licenses. Is that right? So there can be 6 simultaneous separate licenses happening at once, which is pretty great. So we are all, I think I speak on behalf of everybody when we say that we're so grateful to the State Library for giving us this opportunity and for this grant money. We're all in a position where we don't have a lot of extra money to go around to do things like this, and we're just really grateful that you gave us the chance to improve our communities in this way. So thank you.
If anyone has any questions, let us know. Oh, I'm sorry. Tangible, hands-on tech habits. And it is also, well, because of the librarian's love of acronyms, I feel like it was sort of playing to the crowd a little bit, but it's also an Egyptian god, the god that's credited with creating their hieroglyphics. So.
And he has a really cool beard.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, for something more interpretive, I don't necessarily think that it would be, helpful in the sense that there isn't really a... I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I meant to say
Yeah,
He's clearly gonna
he,
see it through that.
yeah, he's yeah. From the focus of probably Bridget and I, and I know, like you said, Gwen is a teacher librarian, but the whole point to the process was it was made to teach everything. We're focusing on technology because of this conference or whatever you want to call it. But the idea is that it's just an easy, clear, quick method. Well, maybe not quick, but to pick it up and to go and teach anything. We were using technology as the example, but we would be more, I could totally see, teaching someone a new concept or a new theory in, whatever, math or anything like that, because you're still showing a process of something or how something works and go from there.
And sorry, one more quick thing.
Go ahead.
I think we ended up focusing on technology specifically because that was something we identified in our specific community as being a weak area. Did you have a question? Yes. I'm so sorry about that, by the way. I was like, put your foot in your mouth, Bridget. Sure. Yeah. Thank you. It seems so obvious, right? But I think most of us in this room who are not teacher librarians, who don't work in schools, were never taught this. I think that's another way that we're unique in terms of a group is that we aren't necessarily marketing this towards patrons or students. We're marketing it towards other librarians and towards teacher librarians. And that sort of evolved on its own.
And the other thing is that's also nice about the method that I know I think, tried to keep in there.
Have at it,
Keep
lady.
in there, yeah, thanks. As an idea is that one of the things we wanted to make sure was the patrons sometimes feel intimidated when they're learning something new that they don't, at that moment in time, have time to ask questions because you're so busy teaching. This makes you stop, be quiet, and let them try it, and then they figure out what questions they have, and they have the comfortable space to ask the questions.
Well, we did not technically bring it to we didn't think about taking it to a huge audience, but we did give a presentation at my school, the administration, and so we presented this to my superintendent, assistant superintendent, and all the curriculum directors, principals, like 24 whatever people are on this administration at our school. And one of the things I wanted to point out was that they need to realize, because they've been administrators forever how long they've been administrators, and they forget sometimes how long it takes to learn something. And so one of the things I pointed out was when we're teaching, we're giving them the time to do this. So if you come in and you observe us, and it takes me 5 days to do a project, okay, and I only I said touch 7 kids that day, because it takes that long to go through this to truly do it properly. But by the end of the 5 days, I will have touched all 30 kids in my classroom so that now they understand it. And then in the next month, when I do another project, they should have this basic building block. So now you can say, yeah, it will only take me 3 days. So I wanted to bring out the point that administrators need to realize that all this technology takes time. It's not just as easy as when we used to just whip out a book and a pencil and just do it. So that kind of took a longer time.
I think that's a really good question, Vicki, and it's something I sort of thought about myself just on my own, that we never really discussed addressing this on a larger scale. For whatever reason, as a group, I think we were sort of micro-focused within our community and within our own institutions. And I think the reason for that is because we all, I think, have very specific examples in our minds of actual people at our library or at our school that could benefit from this. And so I think at this point, we're just really passionate about trying to use this to help the people we see every day, you know, and to try it out on them. And then maybe someday we could, you know, try to expand it. What's up? Yeah, okay.
They did actually, and they may have forgotten this, they did
For the-
briefly talk about possibly doing an ILA proposal.
We did, yeah.
But someone is having the nerve to get married very recently.
Jeez.
Focus on that. And then with the time that Gwen's been out of school, the teacher librarians in the room will know, with the time she's been out of school for the ILEAD project and then ISLMA conference, they don't know it, but they're probably submitting an ILA proposal for next year. I'm just guessing on that.
Apparently, we're submitting an ILA proposal for next year.
I was gonna wait to tell you guys that later. So
Are we done? Are you cutting me off? Okay. Okay.
The only other thing I wanted to add about pushing it out is that once I felt that we were concrete in this, one of the things that I was planning on doing, because we didn't really describe sort of our jobs between Bridget's the instruction librarian and I'm the head of public services. Basically what that means is I take care of reference, circulation, interlibrary loan, and a whole bunch of other people. But I planned on teaching this to my reference librarians. So, because one of the things right now that happens, and I'm sure this happens in a lot of libraries, is our reference librarians are doing a lot of tech teaching because our IT staff, no offense to the IT staff, is not open. And we're the ones that they go to get help. So this, and again, not that this can't only be used for technology, but that's one of the things that I have some people who are very nervous about teaching it because they know what they're doing, but they're nervous about teaching because, again, they're not used to it. And this is a very concrete way to do it and say, here you go, here's the 8 steps. So maybe that's one path, and again, thinking about it by myself on taking it forward. Other than that, I had no formal plans.
Yeah. I think
yeah, I know, right?
that sounds a little bit like something else that has steps. No, well, we knew each other,
I'm
but
Bridget's boss.
yeah, she's my boss.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd met like twice, maybe, like just for this meeting. Like,
So yeah.
thanks.
Thanks, guys.